All right. Hopefully I can be reached from this distance from the mic, but I'm here with my mom. Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Okay, people that have been on this channel before, they kind of know how this works already, but since this is your first time, or maybe it's some of the viewers' first time, you're gonna see a couple images per character, and then you're gonna give your first impression. Just don't think too hard about it. Just say the first thing that comes to mind, and
Okay.
You can be honest too.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. So we're gonna do it a little differently than the last time. We're gonna go through and do all the first impressions first, and then explain them later. So without further ado, let me actually make sure. Okay, there we go. So what was your first impressions of him? You can look at this one because it's
Creepy.
he's creepy.
Yes.
What about him would give you that impression?
Because his life-size cutout in your room scares me every time I come in.
Yeah.
That's the word, creepy.
Don't scare. Do you have any further impressions?
A little on the demonic side. Yeah, I don't like him.
You don't like him, okay.
I don't like him.
Okay, any others? Or is that it?
That's it for him.
Okay. Next. Katie.
Buff. Buff
Yeah.
and mysterious.
He's mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he's a little less scary than...
Oh yes, I like him. I like him much better. Yes, he's very serious looking.
Okay. Any further?
No.
Okay. I got some.
Oh. I would say evil. He looks evil. Yeah. I don't think I would like him very much. Evil is the word.
Yeah. That's foreshadowing. Okay. So evil is the verdict with him.
Yes.
Okay. What about Nishiki?
I like the picture on the left. He looks pretty handsome. I don't like his hair on the right.
I don't either.
How would I describe
These are
him?
from two different games.
I don't know what I would say about him.
Really?
He's kind of cute.
Oh, okay. He's kind of
He's cute. Yeah.
Cute verdict on Nishiki. All right.
Oh, holy crap. That is, okay. So I already said creepy. So that is, that's just awful. That is extremely scary. Scary.
Extremely scary.
Yeah. I would not want to run into him anywhere.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, scary is the word.
Okay. Sagawa.
He looks like somebody I wouldn't trust. Untrustworthy, I think. He looks a little slimy. We'll say that word, slimy.
Slimy.
Yeah.
That's not an incorrect assessment. That's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aw, she's cute. She's very pretty. I like her.
You like
She
her?
seems like she would be nice.
She's nice.
Bad to the bone, I would say. Yeah. He looks like he would not be a nice person. Yeah.
Oh.
He looks mean.
Oh, okay. All right. What about Saijima?
He's a little scary too, but not as bad. Let's see. I would say that he is. What's the word I would say for him? I would say I'd be very wary of him because I can't figure him out.
You can't get a read on him?
No, but he looks like he could be a bad guy.
Okay, Makoto.
And she looks like she'd be very nice. She looks very unsure of herself.
Oh.
Like very shy and unsure of herself.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, Mine.
She looks like she's got it all together. Like she knows everything. One of those.
One of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice. This will be very fun when I'm explaining this to you. What about Daigo?
Oh gosh, I'm using up all the bad words. Scary, frightening.
Well, you can repeat them. It's okay.
I would say untrustworthy. He looks very untrustworthy. I would not trust him at all.
Nice. Oh, Ryuji.
Oh, so he's been in a little bar fight, I think. He looks smarmy, like another slimy character. Yeah.
Yeah, this
slimy, another
fair.
slimy.
Okay. Who's next? I can't remember the order of some of these anymore.
She looks like she'd be very very apt at doing whatever she does. Like she's got her act together.
Okay, not another put together person.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Mine.
Oh. Again, a little hard to read, but with that bottom picture, I'd say he is not a good person either.
He's not a good person either.
I would say bad man. He's a bad man.
Okay.
Now he looks nice.
Akiama looks nice.
Like he might be a little bit nicer type of person. Not real sure.
Nice but unsure.
Yeah,
If you're
like I should probably be wary of him, but he looks like he might be nice.
All right. We have our last one here.
Oh, she looks sweet and innocent. But does that mean that she's not? I don't know. But she looks very innocent.
She looks very
would be
innocent.
the word, yeah.
Okay, now I have to go back through all of these to the start. So, where do we begin? So
he's still scary.
So this is the explaining portion of it. This is where it gets fun. So Majima, we don't actually know like exactly where he came from or what his family situation was before age 20, but what happens is, not a spoiler, but way back when he was 20, he still had 2 eyes, and he was like just beginning a Yakuza career. It's implied he started very young, like maybe right at 18 they let him in, but he and you remember Saejima, that other guy, they were supposed to do an assassination together on this rival clan. Like the guy just got in the rival clan just got released from prison, and they were gonna do a hit on him and like 18 men total. And right as they're going to do it, like the day of, Majima gets pulled aside, and he's like, the guy telling him, I was like, hey, we can't go through with this. There's been this problem in the plan. And Majima's like, well, I'm not gonna abandon my brother out there. I'm not gonna do that. So they apprehend him. They ambush him with a bunch of guys. He can't fight him off. They tie him to a pole, and they're like, well, you know what happens with insubordination, right? And he's still thug tough guy mode. He's like, I'd rather lose an eye than bow down to you. And Can you guess what happens?
Lost an eye.
So he loses an eye, and then his boss Shimano takes him to this place called the Pit, and it's just exactly what it sounds like. It's just this little like tortured dungeon, and he keeps him there for a year because he went against direct orders, and so they're punishing him. But he sticks it out for the year, and they're like, all right, we're gonna put you on this short leash. We're gonna put you in this town, Sotenbori. We're gonna make you the manager of this cabaret club called the Grand, and you're gonna stick it out there, and you're gonna buy your way back into the clan, basically, because at this point he's expelled from the Yakuza entirely. So if he makes quota, then he can get back in, and that's why he like looks different. That's why he's all clean shaven and has long hair. in the bottom picture, but he's about to make quota, and then Sagawa, the guy that you said you didn't trust him, he bumps up his quota again, and that makes him all angry. But he offers him at a later point. He's like, well, there's this big thing going on right now with this plot of land, and whoever gets it, it's vital to something called the Kamurocho Revitalization Project. Whoever gets this like empty plot of land basically gets tons and tons of control and power. So they're like, we need you to, that's all going on. But he misleads Majima a little bit in regards to that. Sagawa's like, you kill this guy who's been trafficking these girls, right? And he's basically just making up a person to him, but he's like, you find this guy, and he works at this place called Hogoshi Kaikan Massage. You find this guy, you track him down, and you kill him, and then you will be back in the clan. And Majima's like, done, let's do this. Unfortunately, what happens is that when he's at this place trying to kill this guy, he gets the wrong guy. They fight, nothing happens, but they apprehend the person. And this is funny. So Makoto is a unisex name in Japanese, so it can be either used for girls or boys. Makoto Makimura is this totally innocent girl. She actually was well, I'll say that later, but she's blind, like psychosomatic blind. Her eyes are fine, but mentally, like because of trauma she endured, she can't see actually. So they try to grab her, and Majima's realizing like, oh, these stakes are much different than what I initially signed up for. So he's like, okay, well then killing people is off the table. I have to protect this completely random civilian from getting hurt. So he stashes her away. There's a whole lot of plot that happens. I'll get into them more with the other characters, but basically he makes sure that she's safe, she's rescued, she's out of harm's way, and once the empty lot goes into the hands of I think it's Masaru Sega gets it, once Tojo gets control, this all coalesces and makes sense in the game. Once everything's back in order, Majima's like, okay, I kind of need to reinvent my personality a little bit. So he cuts his hair, he starts wearing the snakeskin blazer, no shirt, leather pants, and he's basically acting crazy. Like, he's not, he hasn't actually snapped or anything, he's just putting on this big front as kind of a coping mechanism. So he's really the same person that he was in Zero, which is the prequel game that's taking place in the 80s. But yeah, I grew attached to him very quickly because I was like, wow, he is so me.
He is
He's
creepy.
So me. But the other things that happen with Majima that aren't directly related to that, he inherits something called and literally it's called Purgatory, but it's basically this like underground red light district that they built out of an old subway station. So he inherits that, but the deal is that he also has to maintain this construction company like as a front business. So in Kiwami 2, he's walking around with a construction helmet on the entire game. He's just very committed to the bit. So they're so that's part of the whole, that's where the Kamurocho Revitalization Project comes in, and he's building Kamurocho Hills, and that goes up, I think in 5, if memory serves me right. But the games kind of lose Majima's involvement, which really kind of sucks because he's such a good character. But yeah, I think that's all I can say for him. That doesn't involve like talking about other characters yet, because I want to wait to get to some other ones. And then Kiryu is he's basically Majima's best friend. They're super tight with each other. Kiryu's come from different worlds entirely. His Kazuma is his adoptive father, and he and Nishiki were gonna join the Yakuza, and Kazuma didn't want to hear any of it, but he pushed and pushed and pushed, and so finally he's like, alright, you can join the Yakuza. And Kiryu's involvement in Zero is... it's hard to explain. Because he's coming in as just this, like, totally fresh Yakuza, doesn't know anything about the world. And he,
just kind of naive.
Yeah, he is super naive. So he comes in, and then, once all the, like, the thing with the empty lot and, all that gets started up, what kind of jumpstarts his involvement is he shakes down somebody for money in that empty lot, but somebody else comes along and shoots the guy, but Kiryu just kind of roughed him up and didn't kill him, but somebody else came along and like finished the job and tried to put the blame on him. Mm-hmm. So now there's this whole thing about like, oh, I'm being framed for murder. So at one point he steps away from the Yakuza briefly, at least in Zero. But he expels himself for a time, and a lot happens. There's a whole minigame in Zero where like you become the boss of like a real estate company, and it's like, it's something that makes sense when it's being explained to you in these games, but it's very hard to explain to somebody who's never played. Like, oh yeah, you just become a real estate manager and you can also pick up a chicken as one of your managers, like a literal chicken. Oh my God. Literal chicken. But his plot kind of intersects a little bit with Majima's, but they don't directly like meet, even though you get to switch between the protagonists as you're playing. But Kiryu's involvement, to me, really started getting traction in the next game, where he's everything's going pretty okay for him until 1995, when Nishiki accidentally shoots somebody. He shoots one of the big patriarchs, one of the big guys in charge. And Kiryu's like, I'll go ahead and take the blame for it, don't worry about it. So he ends up going to jail for 10 years. And he gets out, and things are really different. Like, Nishiki's all changed and everything. But, bunch of stuff happens with other characters I'll talk about eventually. But the thing that happens with Kiryu is that he inherits pretty much by birthright. He inherits being the 4th chairman of the entire Tojo clan, so he has the opportunity to be like one of the biggest name Yakuza there is. He's in that position for about an hour before he hands it off to somebody else. He literally, like, the ending of the game is just him running out, and like he tries to keep swearing off the Yakuza entirely, but he still has that very big like marker on, like, he's got the tattoo and everything. Mm-hmm. But he's just like you said, he is very naive. He has this very like rose-tinted view of what the Yakuza should be, and when it doesn't stack up to his like own personal interpretation, he just doesn't know how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. He's just kind of stupid, but not too stupid. The other thing that happens is in 3, he gets an orphanage. Basically is like a parting gift when he leaves the Yakuza, but he starts raising a bunch of orphans by himself, and that plot point unfortunately kind of gets lost because the later games get very convoluted. But yeah, he's a stand-up guy. He's just kind of an idiot. really soft-spoken. Like, he could mess you up, but you know, he's kind of
got a soft side.
Yeah. And then Kazuma is he is evil.
Yeah, he looks evil.
So I said that he's Kiryu's adoptive father. Yeah, Kazuma's kind of the reason that Kiryu's parents are dead, because they were part of like this mass assassination attempt thing. And the like baby Kiryu survived, so he took him in and started raising him as his own. And kind of same with Nishiki. also as being an orphan, but Kazuma sucks. Kazuma plays favorites with his children. He has like all these very positive things that he does for Kiryu, but then Nishiki is just like told to go pound sand. He only lasts one, well, two if you count Zero, but he only lasts one game because he's dead by the end of Kiwami 1 Lamau. But he yeah, I do not like Kazuma. And I wish there was more like in the game of explaining why he's kind of a terrible person, terrible parent. But then Nishiki, the reason that he looks so different from 0 to 1 is because in that 10-year time span, he had all these expectations put on him because he was given his own family and probably told over and over, like, why can't you be more like Kiryu? But he basically snaps, especially after, I believe he had a, God, I should be looking this up so I don't have to fact check myself later, but I think he had a sister or cousin or something who she had some kind of terminal disease or needed some kind of operation, and it wasn't given to her, so he's all mad about that. He has kind of a villain arc, but he, I guess, does the right thing in the game's eyes by committing self-immolation. He, like, blows himself up in the Millennium Tower with, like, 10 billion yen. So, that's... I kind of wish there was more given to his story than what we got, because I think he could have had a chance, but they really screwed him over. And then Shimano, Majima's boss, scary guy, yeah, Shimano, not a good dude. Okay, so when I said the assassination attempt that Majima and Saejima were supposed to do, that was a setup, and he supplied them with rubber bullets instead of real ones. Oh. So, yeah, I don't have to worry about that. But it's funny because Shimano and Sagawa have an oath of brotherhood, but they don't seem to really like care that much about each other. So it makes the whole thing just seem like a business relations deal. Mm-hmm. But Shimano is just he's just pure evil.
He looks like
but
it.
he also doesn't make it past Yakuza 1. Like, he's dead at the same time as Kazuma is. I'm not saying he deserved it, but I am saying that God's timing is always right. And then Sagawa is, God, he's actually like a really good villain. He shows up in 0, and he's the owner of the Grand that Majima's working at, and he's the one that's kind of ruining his entire life. And he's the one that tries to get Majima to do the hit, and then when he doesn't do that, there's kind of hell to pay. But Sagawa makes it to like the very, very, very end of the game, and he's like, now that he and Majima are on like an even playing field, he's like, if you ever need anything, like, I got you. And Majima's like, I hope I never see you again. I hope we never talk. And there's a rival organization called the Omi Alliance, which is a direct rival to the Tojo clan, and they come after Sagawa and eventually just kill him right at the end of 0. So we don't have to deal with him for more than one game, but he is a very, he's a very good villain. Like, he's one of those you love to hate him people. And then Haruka comes around in Yakuza 1. At the time, she's 9, and she's looking for her mom. Because she was led to believe that she was an orphan her whole life. She's been living in this orphanage, but she has suspicion and reason to believe that her mom is out there somewhere. So she came to Kamurocho, which is like the city that most of the games take place in, and Kiryu's freaking out a little bit because this is not exactly like a child-friendly city. So he helps try to find her mom, and that's kind of one of the big plot points is reuniting Haruka and Yumi. But her mom doesn't make it the first game. But Kiryu decides this is basically his daughter now, so he adopts her, and she basically comes into the family like that. And she's basically kind of the older sister type to the kids at the Morning Glory orphanage that Kiryu owns. But other than that, there is I haven't gotten to this point in the game. I know it happens, but when she's like 24. I don't know if she's 24 yet, because I think it happens a couple years before, but when she's a bit older, in Yakuza 6, it's discovered that in secret she had a child. So little baby Haruto is her kid, and Kiryu kind of finds that out on his own. And it's going to be a whole mess when I get to that part of the game, but yeah, other than that, I can't really think of anything else to explain with her. You're not gonna like this, but Nishitani is like one of my favorite characters from this franchise. So he shows up. There's a point in the game where the guy that Majima thought was the guy that he was supposed to kill ends up being Wenhai Lee. And Lee has basically been protecting Makoto since she came to I was about to say Kawamocho. They're in Sotenbori at this point. But Lee, he makes this plan because at a certain point everybody knows who Makoto is and they all want her because she inherited the deed to the empty lot, and if they can get her, they can get the empty lot, they can get the power and influence. But she just is unaware that she's inherited anything. So at one point, Lee says to Majima, "Hey, let's take this body double. Let's take this random person, kill her, put her in Makoto's uniform, and then float her down the river and like pretend that like Makoto got killed, and then we'll skip town and we'll just get out of here, and that'll keep her safe." And then there's a scene where Majima's like sitting at a park bench, and he's just like, "I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Like this is nuts." So he gets up and leaves, and he leaves the bag that had the uniform in the trash. And then you see a arm like swoop in and grab it up. And he walks in to the massage parlor the next day, and Lee is congratulating him on his work, and he's like, "What are you talking about?" Turns out the body double plan went through, but Majima didn't do it. So he's like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And he gets a call from this mystery man, and he's like, "Hey, I rented out the Grand for myself. Come by or be square." And it turns out that Nishitani has been the one that, like, he's been spying on him ever since they originally tried to grab Makoto from him, but he thwarted that plan first. He's been spying on him for a while, and so he heard about the plan, so he went through and killed the body double. And he said, there's no way that Saga was going to be able to tell that, you didn't do it. You just tell him that you did do it. So Nishitani he wants to talk to Makoto because he wants the empty lot for the Omi Alliance because he's among the brass of that. But Majima's like, I don't believe you. No thanks. So they fight, and Nishitani's he's kind of a weird wild card at this point because he's not really working for anybody, he's not working for Saga, he's not working for the Omi Alliance, he's kind of only working in service to himself. So, and this is the funniest part, the reason that he actually goads Majima into a fight, because Majima is very, he's on his best behavior when he's at the club, so he's like, I'm not going to fight a customer in my own club, even when Nishitani throws a punch at him. So Nishitani's like, I've got just the thing. He calls the cops on himself and impersonates Majima, saying that he's being robbed, and then he's like, "Oh, you have to fight me now. You have to do this." And Majima's like, "All right, fine." So they fight. Nishitani gets hauled off to jail because they think it's some joke. And then later on, Majima needs some information on Nishitani, so Nishitani's uncle, who's kind of been in the story at this point, he brings him to this police precinct that the Kijin clan, which is the Omi Alliance subsidiary that he operates out of, basically they get arrested and they get brought to their offices, then that's how they operate. so Nishitani's just in jail, just kind of chilling, and he wants to finish what he started with Majima, so they fight again, and then he's telling him the information, like, okay, Makoto has been taken, and she's at this place called Nikio Consortium, or I don't think the place is called Nikio Consortium, it's just she's been taken by the Nikio Consortium, and she's at this certain place, and we can go together, because at this point Nishitani's just like, this is a very fun story for me to follow. Unfortunately, he was originally hired, Nishitani was originally hired by somebody called Shibusawa to get Makoto and bring her to him. And when he didn't do that, he's like, all right, I've given up on this guy. So he bribed one of the police officers in the jail with a better monetary offer. And so he kills Nishitani's uncle and then Nishitani. But Nishitani, like, is pretty much using his dying breaths to say, like, Majima, you need to go get out of here, get this done. So it's kind of funny, though, that Nishitani's influence was only, like, maybe 48 hours at most, and Majima's like, solid, I'm gonna steal that goatee because it would look good on me, too. But Nishitani is very fun. I'm working on like a fan comic that involves Nishitani, Majima, a couple other people, and I don't even know if I should explain that to you because that gets even crazier.
Probably not.
But yeah, I really like this character. Fun little fact though, his voice actor, I was gonna say in the Japanese version, but there's no English dub. But in the game, his voice actor Keiji Fujiwara, he passed away in 2020, I believe, due to cancer. But it's a shame because he was a really, like, very prolific voice actor. He was in a lot of things. But I kind of wish that Nishitani was in more than one game, but we have to settle for what we got. And then Saejima, brother Saejima. So what happens with Saejima is they're trying to do the assassination attempt. He actually shows up to the place the day of with the rubber slugs, and he goes through and he thinks that he's killed 18 people but they're all basically stunned. But he gets carted off to jail and he gets put on death row for 25 years. But right as he's about to enter his 25th year, he gets transferred to another penitentiary and basically does a jailbreak and washes up on the shores of Morning Glory. Because Morning Glory is on a beach. It's Okinawa. But Saejima is a very, like, and I hate that they kind of don't stick with this theme as the games go on, but he's very, like, he's very sensitive. He's kind of a big crybaby. Like, he cries a lot in the game. He has, like, all these frequent night terrors about the men he's killed, even though he hasn't technically killed anyone. He's very, like... And he also, since he's been in jail for 25 years, he doesn't know anything about technology. So, now, the games kind of get the dates mixed up, but he and Majima are the same age. But, one of the best scenes in Yakuza 4 is when he reunites with Majima again after this 25 years in prison. And Majima's, like, he's taking it really hard because he thinks that he betrayed, somebody that because they're sworn oath brothers, they're god brothers basically, and he thought that he let this guy, like, he thought he just hung him out to dry, so he's like, all right, well, if you want to kill me for your betrayal, then this is the time to do it. So they fight and it looks like he's about to, you know, guess what's coming to him, but Saejima just kind of falls over. And they actually have a really strong bond, which is great to see even after all that time. The only thing that stinks, though, is that in the games, after that 25-year prison sentence, it looks like things are looking up, and then in the next game, he's like, oh, I need to go back to jail for 2 years. And it's like, why do you need to do that? You don't need to. And he spends more time in jail than he does on screen, which is such a shame. And in Yakuza 5, for some reason, they buzz all his hair off. I'm not sure why that happens. because I actually, like, I'm in the minority, I guess. I like him with the longer hair, but okay, cool. That's pretty much it for Saejima. And then Makoto. So the reason that she's working at the massage parlor is because Wenhai Lee, he, I can't remember what they say he is, but he was part of this operation to free a bunch of these girls that had been in sex trafficking. So he finds Makoto, and she has gone completely blind due to the trauma from that. So her sight may, and she says at one point, like, my sight may return, when she's talking to Majima, but you know you're not gonna have 20/20 vision again. But she's just this totally innocent person that just happened to be at the wrong place at the most horrendously wrong time. But once the events of Zero are over, her sight, she has a half brother that's more in Kiryu's part, but she tries to reunite with him, but finds out that he's dead, and her sight returns. Like, it's such a jarring thing, and some of it returns during that. And she at one point she literally goes up to the lieutenants of the Tojo clan. She's like, you know, I need your heads, like, on silver platters right now for killing my brother. So she's and at one point she gets shot and things look pretty bad, but she makes a full recovery and her sight returns. The only thing though is that Majima at this point, I don't know if I want to say that he's developed feelings for her, but it's more so in the vein of, you know, I do have, like, an appreciation for this person, but I also understand that, you know, my lifestyle is kind of in conflict with yours, so we can never meet again. Like, I need you to be safe and away from me. So he has this big, like, parting thing at the end of Zero where he basically puts her in the care of somebody else and just literally walks off into the crowd. It's a very, very good scene. But then in Yakuza Kiwami 2, he has to go get some information, and he has to go to that same massage parlor, and he's like, I'm dreading this. And he gets his information as he's about to leave. They're like, oh, why don't you stay and get a massage? And he's like, oh, I don't need one. And they're like, no, please, only half hour. So they link him up, and guess who walks in? Makoto.
Oh no.
So she's like goes on this whole monologue about what's been happening with her, and like giving him like all this big closure. And one of the things that happens is she has this watch. In Zero, the watch is broken, and so it used to play like a sound, and Majima thought, like, why does a blind person need a watch? And she's like, oh, you know, it used to play music, but now it doesn't. And so he ends up fixing the watch for her, like, and secretly gives it to her. But in Kiwami 2, she's like, oh, you know, the watch is fine, but like the strap is kind of broken. I'm not sure where I wear it. And so he gifts, like, as she's about to get on a plane and like leave the country, as she's sitting on the plane, she sees a secret gift box, and then kind of connects the dots that like Majima's this secret person that she didn't know that was helping her after all that time. So it had me rolling the first time I saw it. I was like, I have a very like big bleeding heart on my sleeve for that. But yeah, she's nice. Wait, I didn't skip. Okay, I didn't skip. Oh boy. Okay, can you hand me more water real quick? I need to.
Gosh,
sorry.
It weighs like a ton.
It's huge. I know. This is like 40 ounces. It's good because you don't need to refill it as much. So this is my favorite character to explain to everybody. So Mireille is introduced in 5, and although that game takes place in 2012, the events that happen, like most of it, that exposition takes place in 1992. So Mireille is the president of this talent agency called Dynachair. For like, I know it kind of works similarly here, sort of, but there's kind of a different idol culture in Japan where agencies will be made for different idols, and they kind of promote a person rather than, well, they do promote a singer kind of, but it's like, it's very individualized. I don't know if individualized is the right term, but they're kind of promoting idols in a different way than we might do here in the West. But we still have agents for singers and musicians here. But Haruka in 5 is basically under Mire's care because she's training to be an idol, and she's training for this thing called the Princess League, which is this really big idol competition, and the winner gets their debut concert at the Japan Dome, and they get signed, and it's a whole thing. But Mire is she's a very interesting character to me, at least, because she's very like a cold, no nonsense woman to most everyone, but then around Haruka she's very nice, and she's very maternal, she's very soft to her. And the biggest thing that we get about her is that in 1992 she was about to debut as an idol, like very, very close, and things were going well for her, but she was also secretly married to somebody. And when it comes to idols, like, they don't even like you dating. Mm-hmm. They don't, like, if you breathe wrong around somebody, like, mm-hmm. they don't take very kindly to that. So, letting the world know that there was marriage involved was just not going to happen. But things seem to be going well. Her husband at the time gave her this pen that's like, she would hold it like close to the mic as like a symbolic gesture of him being up there with her, cheering her on. And so things are going swimmingly for, the first year. And then she discovers that she's pregnant, and that's a big no-no too. Mm-hmm. That is immediately like loss of your career. So she does the most rational decision that one might do in that situation. She's like, I will just get an abortion and not tell anybody that I did that. And so, of course, her husband finds out and is very enraged and allegedly, hits her. Eventually, it culminates in a big divorce, and he skips to another town. And of course, the scandal breaks, and she loses all the potential deals and partnerships, basically loses her entire career because of that, and has to scrape by doing something else. And so she's kind of putting a lot into this dream with Haruka because she never got to do it herself. And you want to take a guess to who her husband was?
Which one?
You want to take a guess to what her ex-husband was?
I don't know.
You sure you don't know? You have a hint right there.
The slimy guy?
The who?
The slimy guy?
No.
Oh. That was her husband? The scary guy?
Yeah! Majima was her husband.
Oh, Lord. Bad choice.
Bad choice!
She could do much better than that.
She could. But yeah, the thing though that really irritated me was like, this is a really compelling story, and I really can't wait to see where this goes. And then Mire dies.
Ah.
Like, what the hell?
Dang.
And what's worse is that Majima, after like 20 years no contact, he was like, hey, meet me at the Japan Dome. I'm gonna be alone. Don't worry about it. And like, one of the other characters says like, oh, well, Majima didn't want to actually meet her. He was just trying to lure the perp that murdered her out of hiding. And I don't think that was the case. I think he genuinely wanted to see her in atone, but it was just the things that we will never receive with these games. Yakuza 5 I also have kind of a ridiculous level of hate for, and this is one of the reasons why. But yeah, she deserved better. Mm-hmm. The other guy that's with them is Katsuya. Katsuya kind of introduced the two of them, got them together. He's not really a big part of 5, but he's there in the background. Daigo is the son of the patriarch that got shot by Nishiki. Nishiki shot him because he was trying to make advances towards this one girl. But Daigo has always hated his dad. Like, he loved his mom. He's a big mama's boy, and no one can tell me any different. I like him. No one can tell me any different. But he doesn't like his dad. He doesn't like the concept of Yakuza in general. He thinks that thinks they're all blowhards. But Kiryu, because he doesn't want to get into the Yakuza himself, he's like, Daigo, like, by your birthright, you have to get up in the ranks and become a patriarch. And Daigo's like, no thanks. And then he gets in one fight and acquiesces. Mm-hmm. But the first one, that happens in 2006? Yeah. So in 2006, he looked a bit different, but then he started, looking a bit more professional once it hits, like, 2009. So after the events of Yakuza Kiwami 2, yeah. After the events of 2, and the other patriarch is, found out to not be a good person, Daigo takes up the reins, and he pretty much stays there throughout the rest of the games until it gets to about 6 or 7, and he's like, oh, well, the Tojo clan is going to dissolve because plot convenience. Yeah, Daigo does a pretty big personality 180. Like, he starts off as this really, like, emo kid who doesn't want to listen to authority, and then he becomes, like, really, like, soft-spoken and, like, hardly ever raises his voice. But I do wish we got to see more of his mom, because his mom's funny. I like her. Yayoi is funny. But yeah, I guess he's fit for Yakuza because he's a good businessman, but he's just kind of always been very soft to me. Ryuji is kind of our big villain in 2, and he's the son, I believe, of one of the Omi Alliance people, so he's in direct rivalry with the Tojo clan. And his whole thing is, like, this town isn't big enough for 2 dragons, because he and Kiryu both have dragon tattoos. But they have a whole big fight, and he has this kind of, like, change of heart right as he's, like, on his dying breath, which is something that the Yakuza games do a lot. But yeah, I do wish we got to see more of him. We do get to see him in this spin-off Dead Souls, which is it's a Yakuza game about zombies, which is yeah, your face, you were like, that sounds stupid. It is stupid. I've played it. It's a horrible game, but it's, like, at least funny bad. I was emulating it too. It was miserable. But yeah, Ryuji, not really much to say about him just because we don't see nearly enough. And then Kaoru, she comes in Yakuza 2 also, but she gets this reputation as the Yakuza huntress because she goes after a lot of Yakuza and takes them to jail. She's a detective. Mm-hmm. She's revealed towards the end of 2 to be the half-sister to Ryuji. So she kind of witnesses, like, the fight between him and Kiryu, so that's a whole thing. Kaoru also, she basically is holding Kiryu in custody, and they have this whole kind of little meet cute thing where they eventually, like, fall for each other, but she's gone by, like, the Yakuza 3. Like, she goes to America and it's just like, bye, see ya. So I like her. I think she's fun. I do wish we got to see more of her, but we only get her in, like, a game and then, like, a very minor appearance in 3. Mine okay, Mine is the villain in 3. He's the big villain. They usually introduce, like, a couple, like, minor villains and then they get to the major one. He's one of those types of villains that I can't stand where it's like, oh, he's, he's a villain, but like he's got damage, and you know he's really just sad, and it's like I don't care, but he he has this weird thing about Daigo where he does a lot of things that are not in service to the Tojo clan, but he has a lot of blind loyalty for Daigo, and in 3 Daigo gets shot at the beginning, and he's in a coma for most of the game. And so Mine's kind of going crazy around that. And Mine, he cuts off the head of one of his superiors after like killing him, and brings it in a briefcase and shows it to Kiryu and Majima the florist. They're like, buddy, what is it? And he's trying to pass it off as a peace offering, I guess, but it's obviously not. And then
it looks like a cantaloupe.
That's somebody's head. But he flies in these bouts of rage when anybody like talks smack about Daigo. But the the other thing that he does that it kind of pisses me off, that this doesn't piss other people off, he, for no real reason at all, well, I guess the reason is that he's trying to get back at Kiryu, but he goes and he takes a bulldozer to the entire Morning Glory orphanage and just razes it to the ground. And I'm just so mad that seems to be glossed over by everybody. Like, that's just such a crappy thing to do. That's like, that pushes him into the realm of unlikability. That's too much for me. And like, I know a lot of people like this character. I just think he sucks. Sorry. But yeah, and my whole thing is that because Majima has a construction business, my whole thing is he probably sunk a ton of money into like at least renovations for Morning Glory, if not building parts of it. So to see that burned, he would just be like, he would just be ready to kill. Mm-hmm. I mean, God. Akiyama is somebody that I also really like. So what happens with him, he used to work for a bank, you know? Yay. So he used to work, I'm not sure what exactly he was doing, if he was an accountant or what, but something happened where he got framed for like embezzling funds, and so they fired him, and so he was just really down on his luck and like homeless for a while. And then when Nishiki blew up the tower with the 10 billion yen, it basically rained down like yen from the sky. Oh. So Akiyama was literally like, he was just like, he was passed out on the plaza, and then all of a sudden money was raining down. So he immediately he took the most logical course of action, and he went into the stock market and he started day trading. And so he started, which is really hard to do, but he started building this whole thing, and now he owns a company called Sky Finance, and it's a money lending company. And he's got a reputation as the lifeline of Kamurocho because he will give loans to people that have been turned away, that haven't been successful in receiving one. But he puts you through tests to make sure that you're worthy of receiving the loan. If you don't pass, you don't get it. But if you do pass, you do. And, you know, when he does his job, things are good. But when he's, most of the time, like, he's sleeping, he's lazy. He has to be kind of bossed around a little bit and told what to do because he doesn't care. But he gets involved in that eventually with the other like Yakuza characters, and he's honestly one of my favorite protagonists because he's such a joy to play, because he is a very like mixed martial arts style where he uses mostly his legs. Mm-hmm. He's very fun. And then Hana is his secretary, she's a little neurotic, but that's only because she has to spend so much time around Akiyama, I think. She's the one that's getting stuff done, mostly. She's the one that kind of has to be in his ear, like, you need to stop slacking off. She's one of my favorites. And, look, RGG Studios, the studios that develop Yakuza, they're very, like, they kind of bait us, if Hana and Nakayama are a couple, and it's like you know that they are, but they won't be outright and say it. And I'm like, come on. We get an almost kiss in 4, and I was like, come on, please. It doesn't happen. Awful. But yeah, Hana's very fun. I kind of wish we saw more of her. We only really get to see her in one game, and then if you count Dead Souls, I guess 2. But she's very fun. I think that's the end. Yeah. That was me explaining it.
Wow. That's a lot to remember.
Yeah. It makes better sense when you're actually playing yourself. So, do you have any particular favorites of the cast?
Probably her. Probably Hana.
Hana. Yeah. You don't like my boyfriend?
No. He would be way down on the list.
Oh. That's sad. That's unfortunate because he's just a member of this family now. You're gonna have to accept that.
Oh my.
Okay. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any parting words?
Well, I guess you have to be a younger person to get into this. Yes.
Well, there's quite a few kind of older-ish Yakuza fans. Like, there's some that are well into their 30s that are still playing.
30s, Nikki, double that for me.
Well, I know I would have to, but I'm sure a lot of older people, like even people your age, would find it fun.
Probably not.
No, you don't have that much faith in it. Okay, well, this was a very good first impression sesh. I like doing these videos with friends a lot because I always get good reactions. So I'll have to do another one of these in the future.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yep. Okay. I'm gonna stop recording. Bye, everybody. I need to move my mouse over to my second monitor. There we go.